If you love real emotional stories, hit subscribe. We post one every week. Dr. Hayes, there's an urgent call from Crestwood Academy. They insist it can't wait. My assistant's voice trembled just slightly as I held steady inside a patient's skull. My hands were locked in precise motion, every millimeter critical. Take a message, I said, not looking up. The principal says it's about your grandson. He's been expelled. I froze, scalpel poised midair. That's impossible. I don't have a grandson. She was very insistent, my assistant added. Dr. Hayes, they said it's urgent. You need to come. I finished the delicate procedure, giving final instructions to my resident. Close for me. I need to leave. Half an hour later, I pulled into Crestwood Academy, my chest tight with a rhythm I couldn't control. The familiar red brick and manicured lawns brought memories of a happier time with my late son Lucas, his laughter echoing in my mind. The assistant led me directly to the principal's office. Dr. Hayes, Principal Margaret Langford greeted me, her silver-streaked hair and steady eyes giving her a calm authority. Thank you for coming. I don't have a grandson, I said, remaining near the doorway. My son died 16 years ago. She nodded slowly. I understand. But first, I want you to meet someone. From a side door, a boy entered. He couldn't have been more than 13, slender, dark hair falling into his striking blue eyes, the same shade as Lucas's. My breath caught. The resemblance was immediate, almost cruel in its intensity. You look exactly like your picture, he said softly, his voice breaking slightly with adolescence. Who are you? I asked, voice barely audible. Jacob Lucas Sinclair, he replied, straightening as if the name carried the weight of his own identity. My mom is Emma Sinclair. My dad was your son, Lucas Hayes. I sank into a chair, the room spinning. Memories of Lucas flashed in my mind, his laugh, his stubborn pride, the watch he always fiddled with absent-mindedly. Where's your mother? I asked, trying to ground myself. Jacob's expression darkened. She's been gone for 3 days. Her boyfriend, Drew, said she left, but she didn't tell me. His voice hardened. I got expelled because I defended her. I couldn't just sit there when Drew's kid insulted her. Principal Langford interjected. Jacob's been staying with his stepbrother. The situation has become unsustainable. I thought of my apartment, its sterile walls, its silent emptiness. Could I suddenly take on a boy I'd never known, a piece of Lucas I thought I'd lost forever? Have you contacted the authorities about your mother? I asked. Jacob shook his head. Drew says she'll come back when she's ready, but I don't think he's called anyone. I'll file a missing persons report, I said, decision hardening. And until we find your mother, you'll come with me. Relief flickered in his expression, quickly masked by teenage bravado. Cool. Whatever. Principal Langford handed me temporary guardianship papers. Given your relation and the circumstances, this seemed the most appropriate solution. An hour later, we walked to my car. Jacob's backpack, worn and stuffed with the essentials of his young life, swung over one shoulder. I glanced at him, the boy who carried Lucas's eyes, and felt a surge of hope, fear, and overwhelming responsibility all at once. Is your apartment far? Jacob asked as I unlocked the door to my condo. About 20 minutes, near the hospital. Your mom has the address from the documents. The silence that followed was heavy. Why hadn't Emma reached out all these years? Why keep me separated from my grandson for over a decade? As we drove, I stole glances at Jacob's profile, cataloging features that mirrored Lucas, his jawline, the slope of his nose, the curve of his brow, and trying to glimpse Emma in him. I had only met her a few times, a quiet girl with soft chestnut hair, who had made Lucas laugh in a way that still echoed in my memory. Your mother, I began cautiously. Did she ever mention me? Why didn't she make contact? Jacob stared out the window, unreadable. She said you were brilliant, but intimidating. That you worked all the time. She thought you blamed her for what happened. My chest tightened. The accident wasn't her fault. It hadn't been anyone's, except the drunk driver who hit Lucas's car. We argued, I admitted quietly, recalling the bitter fight Lucas and I had that night. He had stormed out, driving recklessly in the rain. Had he been heading to Emma instead? But that doesn't mean I blamed her, I added firmly. Jacob turned to me, his cobalt blue eyes piercing. She said she tried to call you afterward to tell you about me. Your secretary wouldn't put her through. I remembered those early months after Lucas died. I had buried myself in the hospital, letting calls go to voicemail, delegating everything I could. Had Emma tried, only to be blocked by well-meaning staff? I didn't know, I said honestly. If you had. His voice was challenging but tinged with vulnerability. Before I could answer, my phone rang. Hospital trauma line. Dr. Hayes, said the nurse through the Bluetooth speaker. We have a female assault victim, unconscious, admitted an hour ago. Her ID says Emma Sinclair. The corridors felt endless as we hurried through them. Jacob ran beside me, backpack bouncing. I had traversed these halls countless times as a surgeon, but now each step was laced with personal dread. Is she going to be okay? He asked, voice cracking. I don't know, I admitted. But she's in excellent hands. The trauma bay doors slid open. Dr. Samuel Carter, head of emergency medicine, met us, expression shifting from professional to concerned when he saw Jacob. Victoria, he said, unusually informal. You know the patient. This is her son, my grandson, I said. The words felt strange even as I spoke them. She's suffered blunt force trauma to the head and torso. CT shows a subdural hematoma. Neurosurgery has been paged, Carter said. I want Dr. Levine, I said immediately. And full access to her case. You understand the protocols about treating family, he began. I'm not treating her, I said firmly. I'm observing. Carter nodded, no room for argument. She's in trauma 3, being prepped. 2 minutes, he added. Jacob froze beside me. Can I see her? Part of me wanted to shield him from the sight. Another part knew he needed truth. I nodded briefly. Emma Sinclair lay surrounded by monitors, her face barely visible beneath an oxygen mask. At 33, she was still the same heart-shaped face, now matured. Chestnut hair, matted where it hadn't been shaved for surgery, framed her bruised features. Jacob reached for her hand with delicate certainty. Mom, he whispered. I found her. I told you she'd help us. I watched, frozen. He spoke with a faith I had yet to earn. Who did this? I asked, voice sharp. Drew, he said without hesitation. They were arguing, money, about me. His jaw clenched in a way that echoed Lucas. If she'd gotten rid of me years ago, they wouldn't be so broke now. Fury surged, precise and controlled. This man had harmed someone tied to my son and endangered my grandson. Time to move, a nurse said, disconnecting monitors for surgery. I placed a hand on Jacob's shoulder. She's in good hands. Dr. Levine is excellent. Will she remember me? He asked. When she wakes, I corrected firmly. We'll be right here. Hours stretched. I secured a private waiting room, ordered food Jacob barely touched, called police to report the assault, cleared my schedule, and arranged security against Drew. Jacob alternated between pacing and rigid silence, turning over Lucas's pocket watch in his hands as if answers lay within. Tell me about your mom, I asked. She works all the time. Sometimes 2 jobs. Smart, but never finished college, he said, a flicker of pride crossing his face. She remembers every patient at the clinic, even the difficult ones. And school? I prompted. Stupid. Derek, Drew's son, said Mom was probably shacked up with her boss. I punched him. I nodded. Understandable, I said softly. Inappropriate, but understandable. He studied me, curious. You're not mad? No, I replied. Violence isn't the answer. Loyalty is. I paused. What else has she told you about Lucas? Your dad. That he was smart, funny, could solve Rubik's cubes in under a minute, hated peanut butter, wanted to be an engineer. His eyes met mine, Lucas's eyes. He would have loved me. He would have adored you, I said quietly. Dr. Levine arrived shortly after midnight, exhausted but steady. She's stable, he said. Surgery went well. Hematoma evacuated, intracranial pressure controlled. Significant swelling remains, she's sedated for now. When will she wake? Jacob asked. Levine glanced at me. I nodded slightly. We'll start weaning sedation in 48 to 72 hours, depending on swelling. After that, it's up to her. There's a lot of trauma, Levine added. Recovery will be gradual, but she'll be okay. Jacob exhaled slowly, relief mingled with lingering fear, clutching the watch that had bridged 3 generations. The hope in Jacob's voice made him sound smaller, younger than 13. The next few days are critical, Dr. Levine said honestly. But she's young, otherwise healthy, that's in her favor. After he left, Jacob slumped into a chair, adrenaline finally giving out. I sat beside him, unsure how to comfort a child I'd only just met. You should rest, I suggested. ICU visitors aren't allowed until morning. I'm not leaving, he said, jaw tight. I didn't mean you should. My office has a couch, I offered hesitantly. I've slept there many nights after long surgeries. He studied me, searching for deception. You're staying too. Of course, I said automatically, the certainty surprising me. Just a day ago, my schedule would have been unyielding. Now, nothing mattered more than preserving this fragile connection. In my office, Jacob curled awkwardly on the leather couch while I made calls, to Detective Mercer, to security, to my assistant to clear my calendar. Through half-closed eyes, he watched me, cataloging the details of this unknown grandmother. Mom has a picture of him in her wallet, he said suddenly. My dad at Cedar Lake, laughing the summer before Dad died. I remember dropping him off, warning him about sunscreen, telling him to be home by 10. Cedar Lake, I confirmed. Your father loved it there. Said the water was perfect, never too cold, never too warm. Exactly like that, Jacob murmured, eyelids drooping. Do I, he started, pausing to fight off sleep. Do I look like him? I studied him properly, for the first time without distraction. The shape of his face, the shoulders, the restless energy even near sleep. Yes, I said softly. He nodded, satisfied, surrendering finally to exhaustion. I watched him sleep, this boy who carried Lucas's blueprint, who had existed without my knowledge for 13 years. Grief and wonder warred inside me. My phone buzzed with a text from Detective Mercer, Drew Taylor located and in custody for questioning. Witness saw him leaving the victim's apartment Tuesday night, 3 days ago, when Emma had been missing before being found nearly beaten to death. More questions churned. Why had Emma kept Jacob from me for over a decade? What happened in the weeks after Lucas's death? Had she truly tried to reach me, as Jacob believed? Police had secured Emma's apartment, finding signs of struggle and blood stains. Neighbors reported repeated arguments, escalating violently the night of her attack. I glanced at Jacob, fitfully sleeping on my office couch, and wondered what he had witnessed in that apartment. Dawn arrived, harsh and fluorescent. I dozed in the desk chair, waking intermittently to check Jacob and monitor Emma's updates. Her condition remained stable, the best we could hope for. Jacob stirred, confused at first, recognition dawning slowly, then concern. "Mom?" he asked, sitting up abruptly. "Stable?" "Yes." "No overnight changes." "They're monitoring her closely." "And Drew? Did they find him?" I hesitated. "Evidence at your apartment supports what you said." "They're questioning him." "He's going to jail, right? For what he did to her." "The police are building their case," I said carefully. "If the evidence confirms, he'll face serious charges." Jacob's shoulders relaxed fractionally. For the first time, I noticed how thin they were under his oversized sweatshirt. Food insecurity, perhaps, another layer to worry about. "I'm hungry," he admitted. "Then let's find breakfast," I said, rising. "After that, we can see your mother." The hospital cafeteria buzzed with early activity. Jacob ate 2 plates of eggs and toast with the intensity of someone unaccustomed to regular meals. "Can we see Mom now?" he asked, finishing a 3rd glass of orange juice. "Visiting starts at 8. 20 more minutes," I replied. Jacob nodded, fingers tapping restlessly on the table. "What if she doesn't know me when she wakes?" His voice was steady, but fear shadowed his eyes. "Memory loss is possible with traumatic brain injury," I explained. "Short-term memory is most affected, long-term bonds usually remain intact." "You'll fix her though, right? Mom says you're the best brain surgeon in the country." His confidence caught me off guard. Despite years apart, Emma had spoken of me with respect. "Dr. Levine is handling her case," I reminded him. "I'll make sure she gets the best care." "Yes," he said. "Absolutely." In the ICU, Emma lay connected to monitors, her pale skin bruised along the jawline, head partially bandaged, chestnut hair splayed across the pillow. Jacob approached cautiously, hand reaching hers. "Hey, Mom," he whispered. "It's me. I'm here with," he glanced at me, uncertain. "Dr. Hayes," I supplied, then corrected. "Victoria, your grandmother." He nodded and returned to Emma. "They caught Drew. He's going to jail for what he did. I'm staying with Dad's mom until you're better, fancy office and everything." I stood back, monitoring Emma's vitals. Numbers stable, swelling beginning to subside. My phone buzzed. Drew Taylor in custody, denied assault initially, requested lawyer when evidence presented. Emma's purse and phone recovered from his car. Updates pending. I exhaled slowly, relief mixing with renewed fury at what this man had done. Jacob didn't need the full story yet. Nor the likely reality that Emma had been incapacitated, injured, and alone for days before an anonymous caller brought her to the hospital. The ICU nurse approached, clipboard in hand. "We need medical history from Miss Sinclair, allergies, pre-existing conditions, current medications." I hesitated, aware of how little I really knew about this woman who had carried and raised my grandson. "Jacob might know some of it," I suggested. The nurse raised an eyebrow at the 13-year-old. "We usually need an adult relative." "I'm her only family," Jacob said, chin lifted, voice firm. "Besides Dr. Hayes, and I know all Mom's stuff. Her blood pressure medicine is in the cabinet above the stove. And something for migraines that starts with an L." The nurse softened, a hint of a smile appearing. "That's very helpful. Thank you. Lanepril, maybe?" Jacob added eagerly. I watched the exchange, pride and sadness swirling together. Pride at the responsibility Jacob carried. Sadness at the childhood he had spent managing adult concerns. What kind of life had Emma and he endured without family support? "There's a box," Jacob said suddenly, turning toward me. At our apartment, the one with Dad's things. Letters, pictures, maybe papers about Mom's health too. We should get it. Entering their apartment, a potential crime scene according to Detective Mercer, made me uneasy. But the box represented a connection to Lucas and to the years I had lost with both him and Jacob. I'll talk to the detective, I promised. We can arrange to collect some of your things. Jacob's voice lowered, hesitant. Where will I stay while Mom's here? The question hit me like a physical weight. My condo had a guest room, technically, but it had never hosted anyone. Sterile, impersonal, designed for efficiency, not a child. Foster care. Unthinkable. A hotel. Equally unsuitable. Only one option remained. With me, I said, the words strange on my tongue. You'll stay with me, of course. Turning the key in the condo door felt unfamiliar, the act no longer just opening my sanctuary but welcoming a responsibility I hadn't anticipated. Jacob stepped inside, backpack clutched to his chest like armor, eyes sweeping the sleek hallway, abstract artwork, and polished marble floors. This is, he began, stepping into the living room with panoramic city views. Wow. I saw the apartment through his eyes, pristine white furniture arranged for aesthetics rather than comfort, glass tables free of fingerprints, bookshelves neatly organized by subject and author. Beautiful, but sterile, unlived in. The guest room is this way, I said, leading him down the hall. Gray and blue tones, designed for neutrality, nothing suitable for a 13-year-old. You can put your things in the dresser, I offered. We'll collect your clothes and essentials once Detective Mercer gives clearance. It's nice, he said politely, though his expression suggested otherwise. He set his backpack on the bed gently, as if afraid to disturb the perfect pillows. I'll make lunch, I said, retreating to the kitchen. Opening the refrigerator revealed my own negligence, half a carton of almond milk, Greek yogurt and a few condiments. Meals at home were rare, hospital or takeout sufficed. Do you like Thai food? I called, picking up my phone. I've never had it, Jacob admitted, another glimpse of the limited life he had led. Then today will be your first, I said. It's one of my favorites. While waiting for delivery, an uneasy quiet settled between us. Jacob wandered the living room, studying the few personal photographs I displayed, mostly graduations, hospital awards, professional events. Only two of Lucas, one at his high school graduation, one hiking in the mountains at 15. Is this him? Jacob asked, pointing to the hiking photo. My dad. I stepped beside him. Yes. That summer we hiked in the Cascades. I look like him, Jacob said quietly, eyes studying the image. You do, I agreed softly. Especially when you smile. He touched the frame gently. I don't have many pictures, just what Mom kept in the box. The box? I echoed, remembering his earlier mention. He nodded. Letters, photos, even some papers Mom said were important. And the watch. Detective Mercer texted, we can go to the apartment this afternoon with an officer to retrieve your things. My phone chimed with the same message. Access at 2 p.m., Officer Davis will meet you. Evidence collected in main areas. I checked my watch. Just past 11. We'll go after lunch. Make a list of what you need most. When the Thai food arrived, Jacob cautiously sampled each dish, eyes widening at the flavors. This is amazing, he said, piling more pad Thai on his plate. Your father loved Thai food, I said. A memory surfaced unexpectedly. He could eat his weight in green curry. Really? Jacob asked eagerly. What else did he like? The floodgates opened. I told him about Lucas's passion for astronomy, terrible singing, his ability to solve complex math in his head, and his collection of vintage comic books. Jacob listened with rapt attention, absorbing each detail about a father he had never met. At precisely 2 p.m., Officer Davis met us outside Emma's apartment. The building was run down, in a neighborhood I rarely visited. She unlocked the door with her evidence key. 30 minutes. Just essentials. Bedroom sealed. The apartment spoke for itself, shabby but carefully maintained furniture, walls decorated with Jacob's schoolwork and artwork, a sparse but clean kitchen. Despite financial limitations, Emma had made a home, something I had failed to do in my expensive condo. Jacob moved with purpose, gathering clothes and books, expression flickering between determination and distress at reminders of the recent violence. "The box," he said, heading to a closet near the entryway. He lifted a battered metal container as if it were priceless. "All Dad's stuff." Officer Davis checked it briefly, then nodded. "You can take it." In the car, Jacob clutched the box on his lap, knuckles white. "Mom would look at this sometimes when she thought I was asleep," she'd cry. He glanced at me. "Did you look for her after Dad died?" "Yes," I admitted, guilt rising. "Not immediately, I was lost. By the time I searched, she had disappeared. Investigators, school, friends, no one knew where she went. Her parents sent her away," Jacob said, voice tight. "Super religious. Said she disgraced the family. They're gone now. Good riddance." The vehemence in his voice startled me. What kind of grandparents would reject their own daughter and unborn grandchild? The same kind who had never tried to contact me. "Jacob," I said gently as we pulled into my garage, "if I had known about you, I would have moved heaven and earth to be part of your life." He studied me, those eyes so like Lucas's, weighing the truth in my words. "I believe you," Jacob said finally. "Can we open the box now?" We sat at my dining table, a polished glass surface that had never hosted a family meal. The metal box sat between us like a portal to another time. Jacob's hands hovered over the lid, suddenly hesitant. "Mom never let me go through everything," he admitted quietly. "She said some things were just for her." "We don't have to open it," I said gently, though my own curiosity flared. "No, I want to," he replied firmly, taking a deep breath before lifting the lid. Inside, everything was meticulously arranged. Photographs protected in plastic sleeves. Letters tied with faded ribbons. A small velvet pouch, assorted keepsakes, pressed flowers, movie tickets, and a Westridge Academy patch from Lucas's uniform. On top lay a sealed envelope, inscribed in elegant script, "For Jacob, when you're ready." Jacob stared, captivated. "That's Mom's handwriting. Do you want to read it now?" I asked softly. He shook his head. "Not yet. Let's see the rest first." The photos told a story I had never known. Lucas and Emma at a summer fair, faces painted, laughing into the camera. Lucas strumming a guitar on a park bench while Emma watched, completely enchanted. The two of them at a school dance, Lucas in an awkward suit, Emma radiant in a simple blue dress. So young. So full of hope. "Your father was a musician," I said, tracing Lucas's face with my finger. "Self-taught on guitar. He'd drive me crazy practicing the same chords for hours." "Really?" Jacob's face lit up. "Mom never mentioned that. I've always wanted to learn guitar." Another connection. Another inheritance beyond DNA. I filed it away, perhaps a birthday gift in the future. The thought of celebrating milestones with him, being present, filled me with unexpected warmth. "What's this?" Jacob pulled out a small, worn notebook. Lucas's journal, maybe. I had never seen it before. Jacob opened it carefully. The handwriting was his father's, addressed to Emma. Pages upon pages of letters, documenting every thought, every fleeting emotion. Jacob paused, reading silently, eyes wide. Lucas had written to her daily, even across states. He handed me the journal. I read an entry dated July 28, 17 years ago. Emma, I know we just said goodbye yesterday, but I already have so much to tell you. My friends think I'm crazy to be this attached to someone I just met, but they don't understand. You're different. 2 weeks at camp isn't enough. They don't get it. 78 days until Thanksgiving break, when I can see you again. It might as well be forever. The teenage urgency, so irritating then, now struck me with poignancy. I had dismissed Emma as a distraction during Lucas's final year, failing to see the depth of their bond. Jacob moved on to the letters, untied the ribbon. Emma's neat handwriting detailed teenage dreams, daily life, and profound love. The correspondence traced their timeline: summer camp, long-distance calls, Lucas visiting for Thanksgiving, plans for Emma to visit for Christmas. The last letter from Lucas, 3 days before his death. There's something else, Jacob said, reaching for the velvet pouch. A delicate silver ring with a sapphire slid into his palm. I've never seen that, I said. A small note peeked from the pouch. He unfolded it, a promise of commitment, not an engagement but a vow to continue their love despite separation. He was going to give it at Christmas, Jacob whispered. Then the accident happened. I nodded, voice caught. The evidence reframed their relationship, not a fleeting teenage crush, but young love with intention and seriousness. Jacob returned the ring to its pouch. There's one more thing. A sealed envelope, this one addressed simply, Mom. My hands trembled as I took it. Yellowed with age, the seal brittle. Inside, a single sheet, dated a week after Lucas's funeral. Dr. Hayes, you don't know me, but I loved your son. My name is Emma Sinclair. Will and I met last summer. I am 4 months pregnant with his child. I tried calling several times but couldn't reach you. I understand your grief, I grieve too. My parents sent me to live with my aunt in Oregon. Will spoke of you constantly. He was proud to be your son. I wanted you to know about your grandchild. If you want to be part of our lives, my aunt's address is below. I understand if not. I miss him every day. Emma. Tears blurred my vision. She had tried. Reached out. And I had been unreachable, barricaded in grief, insulated by my assistant's careful gatekeeping. She tried, Jacob said softly. She always said she tried. We sat in silence, the weight of 17 years of misunderstanding pressing down. This letter, proof of Emma's intent, felt both like absolution and indictment. She hadn't hidden him, I had been unreachable. She never said she sent it. Jacob asked. Only that she tried, I admitted. Sandra, my assistant, had shielded me from further pain after Lucas died. Jacob traced the envelope's edge. If you'd gotten it, would you have contacted Mom? Without hesitation, I said. I would have been on the first flight to Oregon. He studied me, weighing my words. Why? You didn't even know her, but she was carrying Lucas's child. A piece of him survived. You were a miracle I didn't know existed. Jacob ducked his head, uneasy with the emotion, but the faint upturn of his lips betrayed relief. He was wanted, unequivocally. My phone rang. The hospital. I answered immediately, pulse racing. Dr. Hayes, this is Dr. Levine. Emma Sinclair is showing increased brain activity. We may start weaning her from sedation tomorrow morning instead of later. Relief coursed through me. That's wonderful. We'll be there first thing. I shared the update with Jacob, watching hope light up his features. Does that mean she'll wake sooner? Possibly, I said. Her brain is recovering faster than expected. Will she remember what happened? Who hurt her? Jacob's voice carried more than curiosity, it held the weight of fear and hope entwined. Would she recall the trauma? Could she testify if needed? Memory after trauma can be tricky, I said gently. We'll have to wait and see. He nodded, though the worry lingered in his eyes. He began returning the keepsakes to the metal box, handling each item as if it were fragile history. When he reached the unopened letter addressed to him, he paused. I should wait, he decided, eyes serious. Until Mom's awake. She should be here when I read it. I was struck by his thoughtfulness. How many 13-year-olds would exercise such patience? As evening fell, the unfamiliar domesticity became evident. I had no routines for hosting, let alone a teenager. Did he have homework despite being expelled? What did he usually eat? When was an appropriate bedtime? Are you hungry again? I asked, recalling his appetite at lunch. Kind of, he admitted. I usually make dinner for Mom and me. She works late a lot. Another window into their life. Responsibility had come too early for him. What do you make? Pasta, sandwiches, sometimes eggs, he shrugged. Easy stuff. I confessed, I'm not much of a cook either. But I can handle pasta. I scanned my kitchen, it was nearly bare, a desert of protein bars and coffee. We'll need to shop first. The grocery trip was a revelation. I typically had essentials delivered. Jacob moved with practiced care, comparing labels and prices. When I told him not to worry about cost, he looked genuinely perplexed, as if shopping without limits was foreign. Get what you like, I encouraged. Foods you enjoy. He lingered in the cereal aisle. Can I get the chocolate one? Mom says it's too expensive. The simple request hit me hard. Chocolate cereal had been a luxury they couldn't afford. At checkout, his eyes widened at the total, though he said nothing. Later, as we put groceries away in my rarely used kitchen, he asked tentatively, Your condo, really expensive? Yes, I admitted. I've been fortunate. And you live alone? I do. Why? I never remarried after Lucas's father died. My work became my life. Weren't you lonely? His voice was honest, cutting through my defenses. Had I deliberately built a life to keep loneliness at bay? I think I chose not to notice, I said, which isn't the same as not being lonely. Jacob considered this while arranging cereal boxes. Mom gets lonely. That's why she let Drew move in, even though he was a jerk from the start. His insight into Emma's vulnerability deepened my understanding of the woman who'd raised my grandson. After a surprisingly companionable dinner of spaghetti and garlic bread, I watched him set up his laptop. I have to finish an essay, he said. Ms. Langford said I can email assignments, he trailed off, uncertainty on his face. Until when? Until Mom recovers. Until life's normal again. The future hovered, uncertain and uncharted. You can stay here as long as needed, I offered. I'll also speak with Principal Langford about school. He nodded, shoulders relaxing. Thanks, for everything. He hesitated. Should I call you Dr. Hayes? The question caught me off guard. Legally, biologically, I was his grandmother, but we were still strangers in many ways. Eliza is fine, I said. Unless you prefer something else. He considered it silently. Maybe. Grandma. Not right away, but eventually. The simple request unraveled me. I smiled, deeply touched. I'd like that, I admitted. Morning brought cautious hope. We arrived at the hospital just after 7. Dr. Levine met us outside Rachel's room, expression cautiously optimistic. We've begun weaning her from sedation, he said. Brain activity is improving. Intracranial pressure is normalizing. Reflexes are strong. When will she wake? Jacob asked, the question on his mind since yesterday. It's gradual, Levine explained. You might see movement, changes in breathing, or responses before full consciousness. Jacob absorbed it, serious and attentive. Over days, he'd gained vocabulary no 13-year-old should need: subdural hematoma, intracranial pressure, Glasgow coma scale. Can I sit with her? Talk to her? He asked. Absolutely, Levine replied. Many patients hear loved ones even in deep sedation. Your voice could help her return. In Rachel's room, the improvement was subtle but tangible. Fewer monitors, a warmer tone beneath bruising, a more natural rhythm to her chest. Jacob took his usual place at her side, speaking quietly about yesterday's Thai lunch, grocery shopping, and schoolwork. I stepped back, monitoring her vitals while giving them space. My phone buzzed. Detective Mercer, Sanders charged with aggravated assault and attempted murder. Evidence includes witness testimony, physical evidence, and apartment footage. Bail denied due to flight risk. Relief surged. Drew was secured, unable to harm Rachel or Jacob further. Another text: need statement from Jacob when convenient. Officer can come to you. I promised we'd arrange it after seeing Rachel's progress, then called Mercer. Has Sanders confessed? I asked. Not formally, but he implicated himself, she said. Footage shows him dragging an unconscious Rachel to his car Tuesday night, returning alone 40 minutes later. We believe he left her for dead. The cruelty, leaving Rachel alone, forcing Jacob into uncertainty, revived my fury. Who found her? I asked. Anonymous 911 call from a burner phone, Mercer said. Reported an injured woman behind a warehouse. Caller refused ID. Maybe a good Samaritan, or someone with a conscience. Will she need to testify? Physical evidence is strong, Mercer assured me. A plea deal is likely, but her testimony strengthens the case if she can give it. After the call, I returned to find Jacob holding Rachel's hand, animatedly speaking. He froze. Her fingers moved. He whispered, eyes wide. I crossed to the other side, taking her hand. Rachel, can you hear us? Squeeze if you can. A long moment passed. Just as hope began to waver, I felt it, a deliberate, faint squeeze. She did it. Jacob's voice broke with disbelief and excitement. Mom, it's me, Jacob. You're in the hospital, but you're going to be okay. Rachel's eyelids fluttered, but didn't fully open. Her breathing shifted, quicker, more alert. I'll get Dr. Levine, I said, pressing the call button. The next hour passed in a blur of careful optimism. Medical staff monitored her, noting increasing signs of consciousness, subtle eye movements beneath closed lids, purposeful reactions to Jacob's voice, changes in vital signs with each word he spoke. This is very encouraging, Levine told us after checking her charts. At this rate, she may regain consciousness within 24 to 48 hours. But remember, recovery from traumatic brain injury is gradual. Physical, cognitive, and emotional challenges lie ahead. Jacob absorbed the news with surprising poise. But she'll still be Mom, right? She'll know me. Based on her responses, I believe so, I said. Yes. That afternoon, while Rachel remained on her slow climb back to awareness, Jacob and I stepped into the hospital cafeteria for a brief reprieve. The officer who had taken his statement had just left, and the fatigue in his posture was evident. You did great, I said, offering a slice of chocolate cake. Detective Mercer said your statement was clear and very helpful. I just told the truth, he said, poking at the cake without much enthusiasm. About Drew, about the fights, that night. His eyes lifted, suddenly worried. Will Mom be scared when she wakes? Will she remember what he did? I chose my words carefully. She might not remember the trauma itself, sometimes the brain protects us that way. But she'll remember you, and me, almost certainly. Those memories are deep, long-standing. I paused, then added, Jacob, whatever challenges come during your mom's recovery, we'll face them together. I'm not going anywhere. For the first time since we'd met, he reached for my hand across the table, a deliberate connection, a choice of trust. When Mom talked about you, he said quietly, she always said you were brilliant but intimidating, that you probably wouldn't have time for someone like her, for us. He studied our joined hands. But she was wrong, wasn't she? Yes, I said, my voice thick with emotion. She was very wrong. Thursday afternoon, Rachel finally opened her eyes. The slow emergence into consciousness was ordinary and yet extraordinary, a suspended moment of relief and wonder. Jacob had been reading aloud from a science textbook, explaining the life cycle of stars, when her fingers tightened around his. Jacob, she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. I was at the nurse's station reviewing her scans when I heard him call. By the time I arrived, Jacob was leaning over the bed rail, tears streaming, as Rachel weakly lifted a hand to touch his cheek. You're awake, he repeated. Mom, you're really awake. Her eyes, still a little unfocused, swept from his face to mine. Confusion, recognition, awe, all mingled. Dr. Hayes, she whispered faintly. You're here. Yes, I said, moving to the opposite side. I'm here. Rachel pieced together the impossible reality. How Jacob had found me, how he'd stayed with me while she was hospitalized. Her eyes filled with tears. I tried to tell you, years ago, about Jacob. I tried, she murmured. I know, I said, squeezing her hand. I found your letter. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for either of you. Dr. Levine entered with his team, and we stepped aside to let them assess her. The prognosis was promising. Speech slightly slurred, right side mobility impaired, but memory and cognition largely intact. Do you remember what happened, Miss Parker? Levine asked gently. Fear crossed her face. Drew, she whispered. We fought, about Jacob, about money. He said terrible things. I told him to leave, then, she faltered. Then nothing. That's normal, Levine assured her. Memory gaps around trauma are common. After the team departed, I prepared to leave, giving mother and son space. But Rachel reached for my hand. Stay, she said softly. Please. For the next hour, she listened as Jacob explained how he found me, how he uncovered the truth, and that Drew was arrested. She drifted in and out of focus, fatigued, but her gaze remained locked on him as if afraid he might vanish. When Jacob stepped out to get a snack, Rachel turned to me. I always imagined this moment, she admitted. Meeting you again. I rehearsed, apologies. No apologies, I said firmly. You were 16, alone in an impossible situation. I should have tried harder to reach you, and I should have been reachable. And Jacob, he's extraordinary. You did an amazing job raising him. A faint smile touched her lips. He's so much like Lucas. Not just looks, his mind, his focus, that intensity. Yes, I agreed. I see it too. Will this be weird? She asked, direct and unflinching. Undoubtedly, I said, earning a surprised laugh. But we'll figure it out. In the weeks that followed, a new normal emerged. Rachel moved to a rehabilitation facility, showing steady progress and determination to regain independence. Jacob split time between the hospital, my condo, and school, where Principal Norwood arranged his reinstatement with counseling requirements. My guest room transformed from sterile perfection into a space reflecting Jacob's personality, astronomy posters, books stacked half haphazardly, a guitar leaning in the corner. I adjusted my surgical schedule to ensure I was home for dinner, surprising colleagues and myself alike. One evening, as Jacob practiced guitar, I reviewed Rachel's medical reports. Recovery exceeded expectations, though therapy would continue for months, and occasional fatigue or word-finding struggles persisted. My phone rang. "Rachel, calling from rehab. We need to discuss living arrangements," she said. Speech slow but improving. "They're planning discharge in 2 weeks, our apartment," she hesitated, the weight of memories, stares, finances unspoken but palpable. "I've thought about that," I said. "My condo has a second room. Currently my office, but it can be converted. Accessible building, secure. Jacob's already settled." Silence stretched. "That's very generous," she finally said. "It's not an imposition," I reassured her. "It's family. Consider it a transition. Later, when you're stronger, we can explore other options." Pause. "I want independence," she said. "Of course," I agreed. "We'll set boundaries and expectations. But Rachel, you and Jacob don't have to do everything alone anymore. That's what family means." A soft, emotional sound came from the phone, perhaps a tearful acknowledgement of relief and acceptance. "Lucas always said you were unyielding once your mind was made up." A polite way to say stubborn, I acknowledged. "Consider the offer. For Jacob's sake, if nothing else, and for yours," she said with keen insight. "You mean for both of you," I corrected silently. 17 years lost, 17 years without knowing my grandson, without knowing the woman my son had loved. After ending the call, I lingered in the fading light of the living room, listening to Jacob's tentative guitar practice. The notes of a melody Lucas had once played drifted through my condo, no longer just a pristine, sterile space, but a home slowly coming alive. Difficult days lay ahead, Rachel's ongoing recovery, Jacob's adolescence, the shadows of the past. Yet, surrounded by reminders of Jacob's presence, I felt something long absent, a sense of belonging, of being needed, of giving and receiving care. 5 years had passed since Principal Norwood's call irrevocably changed my life. 5 years since walking into her office to meet Jacob, a timid 13-year-old with Lucas's eyes and a world of grief behind them. Now, on a bright June morning, I stood in our kitchen preparing breakfast, the sounds of a real family filling a space that had once been solely mine. "Has anyone seen my cap?" Jacob called from upstairs, his voice deeper at 18, still cracking with youthful excitement. "Check the hall closet," Rachel called, arranging flowers nearby. "I think I saw it when I grabbed the camera yesterday," he answered. I smiled quietly, marveling at how naturally we had settled into our rhythm. The transition had been far from seamless, 3 wounded people learning to build something new from fractured lives, but we had persisted. We had navigated Rachel's difficult recovery, Jacob's teenage turmoil, and my own steep learning curve from solitary neurosurgeon to present grandmother. "Found it." Jacob appeared in the doorway, graduation cap in hand. His tall frame filled the space once too large for a child. At 18, he mirrored Lucas completely, dark hair unruly, cobalt eyes intense, mind sharp and quick. "Pancakes are almost ready," I said, flipping another onto the growing stack. Cooking had become an unexpected joy in my semi-retirement. 2 years ago, I had stepped down from chief of neurosurgery, moving into teaching and mentoring, creating space for this second chance at family. "Smells amazing, Grandma," Jacob said, snagging a pancake directly from the plate. His casual use of "Grandma" still warmed me, Rachel added, moving gracefully despite slight residual asymmetry from her injuries. At 38, she had transformed her recovery into a career, completing a master's in occupational therapy and now working with trauma survivors, her story inspiring those beginning rehabilitation. "Mom made pancakes on my high school graduation, too," Jacob said, dousing syrup on his stack. "Though hers were from a box mix." "Hey, Rachel laughed. Some of us were juggling 2 jobs and getting you to school on time. Gourmet cooking wasn't exactly a priority. Their banter reflected years of shared struggle, resilience, and a bond strengthened by adversity. My presence hadn't disrupted their connection. Instead, we had built something together, not competing maternal figures, but complementary ones. Speaking of your mother's hard work, I said, handing Rachel her plate, have you thanked her properly for organizing the graduation party? Every day, Jacob said simply, reaching for her hand. For everything. Rachel blinked back tears. Save it for the ceremony, she said with a laugh. I've only got so many tissues. After breakfast, as Jacob went upstairs to finish getting ready, Rachel and I cleaned the kitchen together in comfortable silence. These quiet domestic moments had become precious, the rhythmic passing of dishes, the gentle coordination, the unspoken understanding developed over years of care. I never thought we'd get here, Rachel said suddenly, handing me a plate. That day in the hospital, seeing you both. I couldn't imagine this working. Nor could I admitted. I spent 17 years building walls, never imagining letting anyone through, let alone living as a family. Yet, here we are. Rachel smiled, the lines around her eyes softening. A neurosurgeon, a former dropout, and a boy we both love, somehow making it work. Former dropout, I corrected. Now an occupational therapist with honors. She laughed. True enough. We've all changed, haven't we? The doorbell rang. Amelia had arrived for the ceremony. My colleague and friend had become part of our unconventional family, her weekly visits evolving into holidays, weekends, and eventually her own spare key and coffee mug. Where's the graduate? She asked, sweeping in with a massive gift bag. I have something for him before the madness begins. Jacob bounded down the stairs, resplendent in his cap and gown. The blue fabric highlighted his eyes, the same striking hue that had first stunned me 5 years ago. Dr. Cohen, he exclaimed, embracing her warmly. He had spent years visiting her pediatric neurosurgery department, initially for me, but gradually pursuing his own interest in medicine. Her guidance had been invaluable in college applications, ultimately earning him a full scholarship to my alma mater. This is from all of us, Amelia said, handing over the bag. Inside, a restored vintage doctor's bag held a stethoscope, medical reference books, and a leather-bound journal embossed with his initials. It's amazing, Jacob breathed, reverently examining each piece. Check the inside pocket, Amelia said with a smile. He reached in and pulled out an envelope. Medical school tuition, he whispered, incredulous. But I haven't even started undergrad. The department established a scholarship in your grandmother's name when she retired, Amelia explained. The board unanimously agreed the first recipient should be Lucas's son. It's ready for you when you're prepared. Jacob looked to me, overwhelmed. Did you know? I shook my head, equally stunned. Not a word. Your grandmother has saved countless lives, Amelia said. Trained generations of neurosurgeons. This ensures her legacy continues through you, if that is your path. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Jacob's face, the weight of expectation, of legacy, of following in monumental footsteps. Whatever path you choose, I said firmly, resting my hand on his shoulder, medicine, music, or anything else that calls you, entirely your choice, Jacob. Yours alone. The tension left his body. Thank you, he said quietly. To all of us, and none of us in particular, for everything, for believing I have something to offer. As we prepared to leave for the ceremony, I slipped into my study, heart full, watching the next generation take their first steps into the life they would shape. Originally, the second guest room had transformed when Rachel insisted on taking the smaller bedroom despite my protests. You've given us so much, she said gently. Keep your space. From my desk drawer, I retrieved a small velvet box I'd been saving for today. Inside rested a pocket watch, the very one his father had owned, preserved all these years by Rachel, and that Jacob had shown me on that first day in Principal Langford's office. I had it restored, polished silver gleaming once more, the mechanism oiled and tuned to perfection. I joined the others at the front door, pausing to take in the scene. Jacob, resplendent in his cap and gown, Rachel, elegant in a sapphire blue dress that mirrored his eyes, Amelia, checking her camera settings. My family, rebuilt and whole, drawn from fragments I'd feared lost forever. "One more thing before we go," I said, offering the box to Jacob. He opened it slowly, recognition dawning as he lifted the watch from its velvet nest. "Dad's watch," he breathed. "Your father wore it at his graduation," I said softly. "And his father before him. Today, it seems fitting you should carry it." Jacob ran his thumb over the inscription inside, "Time reveals truth." A small smile curved his lips. "It certainly does, doesn't it?" he whispered. The ceremony passed in a whirlwind of pride and ritual. I sat between Rachel and Amelia, tissues ready, as Jacob crossed the stage to receive his diploma. Principal Langford, silver-haired and still radiating elegance, shook his hand firmly. From troublemaker to valedictorian. A transformation few anticipated except those who truly knew him, she said. "Remember when he got expelled for punching that kid?" Rachel whispered, squeezing my hand. "Best expulsion of my career," I whispered back, making her laugh through tears. Afterward, amid congratulations and photo-taking, Jacob introduced us to his teachers, his friends, and, most importantly, Sophie, the girl he'd mentioned so often. Shy, brilliant, and kind, she complimented Jacob perfectly, reminding me of Rachel at 16, meeting Lucas for the first time. Later, as the party at our condo wound down, I found a quiet moment on the balcony. The city stretched below, lights twinkling as dusk settled. I reflected on evenings spent alone here, viewing the same skyline with detached precision, never imagining it would one day frame family celebrations. "Penny, your thoughts?" Rachel joined me, offering a glass of wine. "Just marveling," I admitted, "at how completely life can surprise you, even at my age." She smiled, leaning on the railing. "Jacob's been accepted into the university music program as well. He hasn't chosen his path yet, medicine or music." "Lucas faced the same choice," I said quietly. "And I didn't handle it gracefully at the time." "You were trying to shield him from struggle," Rachel observed. "I understand better now, being a parent myself." "Yet struggle found him anyway," I admitted. "And us," she added. "But so did joy, eventually." We stood in companionable silence, watching stars emerge, hearing Jacob's guitar through the open windows, another echo of Lucas, bittersweet and joyful. "Do you ever wonder," Rachel asked hesitantly, "what might have happened if we'd found each other sooner? If your assistant had put my calls through, or if my letter had reached you?" "Often," I admitted. "But my mother used to say, life unfolds as it must, not always as we wish." Rachel considered this. "There's wisdom there." "We found each other eventually," I said. "Perhaps when we were truly ready to see each other." "Mom, Grandma." Jacob appeared in the doorway, guitar in hand. "I've been working on something I want you both to hear." We followed him inside, where Amelia, Principal Langford, and a few close friends had gathered. Jacob perched on the edge of the coffee table, adjusting his guitar strings. "This is called The Call That Changed Everything," he said, smiling. "It's about how families can be lost and found, broken and mended, and how sometimes the most important connections start with a simple phone call." As the first notes filled the room, complex, beautiful, occasionally dissonant, yet ultimately harmonious, I felt Lucas's presence more strongly than I had in 20 years. Not as a ghost, but as a living thread woven into the tapestry of our lives, grandmother, mother, and son. Jacob's music built to its crescendo, fingers dancing across strings with inherited skill and patient practice. Rachel's hand found mine, squeezing gently as tears streamed silently down both our faces. In that moment, surrounded by family, I understood what had eluded me for decades. Legacy isn't in accolades or surgical achievements, but in the love that endures even through loss, and the courage to answer the calls that can change everything.